Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why a 1 rep max lift is a 1 rep max lift. And this is something that we have seen proven repeatedly, not just by me, but by people a lot stronger than me. Granted, I'm one of the few guys who uses a system even remotely similar to this on YouTube. And so sometimes I have to use myself as an example, but I really and truly do not want people to think that I'm highlighting myself as the best of the best, okay? Because I'm not. There are guys who smoke me on every lift imaginable out there who still use these same sort of methods, okay? So again, I want to make that very, very clear. But I've used myself sometimes because this is my channel. This is what you see. My training is all documented. I'm probably the only person online who documents their training, all of it year round, right? Other than deloads, other than restoration training, some conditioning, everything else is on camera. And vlogs dated with the workouts written below. So I can be used as an example because people watched my progression. Alpha Destiny does this. Eric Bugenhagen uses variations of this concept. And I don't think anyone's going to deny that he's pretty strong at 1 rep max lifts in general, right? Seen guys like Jamie Lewis use stuff like this and then break records in powerlifting. And then obviously the entire West Side guys, their entire team with 80 world records. And everyone who follows their philosophy. They've all proven this. All right, a 1 rep max lift is a 1 rep max lift. When we talk about specificity of training regarding maxing, what people need to understand is that you will get better at a classic lift by doing maxes on 6 different close enough variations of it that are totally different exercises than you will get in terms of carryover of doing that classic lift working with a weight you can do for 5 reps. Okay? Here's why. Technique goes out the window sometimes on a true 1 rep max. And what I mean by that is that the perfect technique that you develop working at 80%, right? If you develop perfect technique at 80%, when you go to lift a truly heavy weight, your form will not look the same, okay? So doing your 5s and your 3s or whatever for multiple sets with a percentage like that, trying to practice technique, it will help you with the setup. Right? The first reps will still help. The first reps in each set will help ingrain a basic form. That's true. But the technique, when you put 95%, when you start exceeding 90% of your max on that lift, when you start doing that, it is going to look different. And the perfect technique that you used may not be the technique that you need to actually lift a max. And this is something I've heard again. Louis Simmons, the great mad genius that he is, mad scientist, whatever you want to call him, has basically said there's only one way to lift a max weight. Now, that might sound absurd. People say, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. There's only one way. I've seen a million different deadlift techniques. Okay. What is a max lift? A max lift is the most weight that you personally are capable of lifting. All right. If you do 6 different deadlift techniques, you're going to lift a different weight on each one, aren't you? Your max is going to be slightly different on each one. Different foot spacings, different positions of the hip as you grind it. You could do 6 different variations. Only one of them is going to give you your max. In other words, you might pull 500 on one of them, 520 on another, 550 on another, and 570 on another as your all-out max. In other words, only one of those let you hit the 570. There is only one way to hit a true 1 rep max lift. There is only one position and bar path that will let you personally hit your true 1 rep max on your squat, on your deadlift. Okay? Maxing out lets us learn to find our grooves. Because what happens? Let's say, look right there. I have all those chains on there. I have 522 in plates, and then I've got a bunch of chains. I don't know how many chains are on that one right now. I'd have to go back and look. It's all documented. Okay. Do you think I walked in and hit that, or did I start with the barbell with just the chains and then add plates, and ramp up? When I got to 400, I probably started making smaller jumps, ramping up and finding your groove. Why do we find the groove? Because we start finding the positions to where we can move the weight and it feels lighter. Okay. When people think of a 1 rep max lift, they say, well, you're just hitting 1 rep. No, you aren't. You're hitting 7 or 8 reps. You're hitting 7 or 8 single reps on your ramp up. You are getting into your groove with that exercise. You're learning to find your groove. Okay? You practice ramping. The ramp up is how we get good at maxing. I want to make that very, very clear. The ramp up to the max is how we get good at maxing out. As the weight gets heavier and we keep making 20-pound or 10-pound jumps or 5-pound jumps as we get closer to the max, we are finding our personal sweet spot for the groove, for our hip position, our hand position, our bar paths. And we're learning to strain against a heavy weight while ramping to it. Right? If you practice ramping to a max on an exercise, you will be able to ramp to a max on any exercise. Okay? If you have practiced maxing out on 6 different types of squats, you've learned how to quickly find your groove on an exercise you haven't done in weeks and max out on it and hit a true max on it. It carries over. The skill of maxing out is the skill of ramping to a heavy single and finding your grooves, getting intermuscular coordination and working into the groove. That skill is the same no matter what close variation you do. You could do 8 different types of bench press and do that, and it will carry over to when you hit a classic normal meet legal bench press of getting in and finding your groove on it as you ramp up. It just becomes another exercise. It carries over. And you guys watched me do this. I went forever without hitting a back squat. Just doing all these, and not even doing the same box squat, doing variations, different band, different chain weights, raw, everything, for months and months and months and months. Walk out of nowhere, hit a 522 squat without having hit anything 500 plus on a back squat in many years. 522. And then eventually took that up another 30 pounds. Okay. By doing these variations, it carries over. A max squat is a max squat. Ramping to a max is ramping to a max. It still teaches you the skill of it. Now, we could talk about overuse injuries. We could talk about the psychology of doing that, of why it benefits you in other ways. But that's not the scope of this particular video. That's topics we discuss all the time. We'll discuss more in the future. Okay? A pull from the floor is a pull from the floor. I don't care if it's a 1-inch block pull, a 1-inch deficit pull, a sumo deadlift against chains, a sumo deadlift against bands. They all teach you how to find your groove and pull a max weight from the floor. Period. It carries over. You can build a conventional deadlift, a monstrous 1 rep max conventional deadlift, which you guys have seen me do. Not the best, but for a 43-year-old dude who weighs 220 is pretty good. You guys see me pull 615. How many true, legit conventional deadlifts have I done? A handful? 3? 3 times, maybe. You guys saw me do a 605 on one, 615 on another. I built that doing sumo. Sumos against bands, sumos against chains. Sumo block pulls. Right? We practice these other lifts. And then later some conventional against chains. Deficit conventionals. The point is, they're all a max. They all teach you how to max out. Right? Because outside of maxing out, most of our other strength comes from our hypertrophy. Have we built the muscle necessary for our frame and structure to lift that weight? And once we've done that, maxing out becomes the next part of it. It's a skill. And the skill is not knowing your perfect form on a back squat. Yeah, there's a skill component to that, but if you're not practicing with the kind of weights or the effort you're going to do to hit a true max, all that technique work may not carry over as well as you think it will. It'll teach you how to set up. It'll teach you how to do a first rep. It won't teach you how to strain. It won't teach you how to groove and find your groove with a truly heavy weight on the ramp up. But that can be done with any squat variation, can it? Because it's all the same. A 1 rep max is a 1 rep max. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.